This is lesson 90 and it's all about supply-side economics. And once again, this is a bit of an overview because actually on this course so far we spent a lot of time talking about supply-side economics, how supply-side economics improves everything and everything else. But this is just to go over through exactly what the syllabus wants. One thing we haven't spoken about is that supply-side policies, improvements in terms of the supply-side performance of the economy can often occur just within firms. So for example, firms may invest, they may innovate, and that will lead to a shifting out of the AS curve. So the syllabus says that candidates should realise that supply-side change often originate in the private sector independently of government through productivity improvements, which is sort of correct. But as I was writing that, I was thinking to myself, actually, the government has to provide the right environment. So it has to be able to have good economic policies. That means you have a zero output gap, and then firms are going to thrive. And then once firms thrive, they're going to invest and they're going to innovate. So really, to summarise that, is supply-side improvements can take place obviously without the government. They can originate within the private sector firms. And then we go through all this, how supply-side policies can help to achieve improvements in terms of the overall economy. And the reason why I'm putting this down is often you find, particularly on A2 papers, people have been taught supply-side economics in the first year and they've sort of forgotten what it's all about. And the only supply-side policy that they can remember is education and training. So they talk about that. Right, what you need to do is get hold of a few policies and explain why that particular policy will lead to an improvement in the macro economy. The one that I always tell my students to look at is, okay, if there's a falling corporation tax, therefore there's going to be more investment, therefore you can apply that to any of the macro objectives that you want. Let's choose one. So there's more exports, okay, so if firms invest more money, they're going to become more efficient, and then hopefully they're going to go out and sell more exports. So if you can use these to describe how that will directly affect the macro objective that you're talking about, right, let's choose another one here, privatisation. That will also lead to rise in exports because firms will become more efficient. If they become more efficient, they're more likely to export more goods. Help for small businesses, this might help improve exports because a lot of those small businesses will become bigger businesses and eventually they will sell more and more goods. Okay, and then from there, how supply side can improve macro performance. Never forget this model, that also all these individual policies here on a macro level will add out to moving out the AS curve. And if you move out the AS curve, then what can you do? You can run the economy at high levels of demand, and then hey presto, you're going to get an increase in economic growth from here to here to here without getting inflation. Okay? Then we spent a lot of time on this, the role of supply-side policies in reducing the natural rate of unemployment. Remember what the natural rate of unemployment is those people who are voluntarily unemployed because they could accept jobs at lower wage rates. So we want to try and shift the long-run Phillips curve inwards, and then we can reduce the natural rate of unemployment, say, from here to here, and then we're going to get a lower natural rate of unemployment. And then what can we do? We can run the economies at higher levels of demand without getting inflation. And that's the importance of the natural rate of unemployment on that. Do you know what free market supply side is? Yes, all of this here is free market supply side because all of this improvement is undertaken by private sector firms. It's got nothing to do with the government. Okay, it has, because the government's setting the right sort of environment by which these firms can improve, but all of these are free market policies. Okay, people are doing them because they want to maximise their returns, and that is the idea behind the free market. Over here we've got interventionist supply side. Now, interventionist supply side, that is when the government directly involves itself in the economy and it comes up with ideas. So ideally you're sort of getting the government sector working with the private sector because the government sector will have the big picture. So for example, they might say, oh, the UK economy isn't spending much on research and development, let's give large grants in this area. So they give large grants in that area, so hence firms will start to innovate, and that's like a public-private sector partnership. Or let's put broadband into all of the homes. And if you put broadband into all of the homes, then that will speed up communications, and that will lead to an improvement in the supply side performance of the economy. So for example, the government thinks that would cost £20 billion, for example. Having an industrial policy, maybe having an industrial bank so firms can have easier access to finance. All of these things are interventionist supply side, and quite clearly they will also shift up the long run aggregate supply curve. And finally, supply side economics is using microeconomic incentives to achieve macro goals. Right, that's the purpose of it, because looking at all these things again, there's another line in the syllabus that talks about the micro, how will it affect the microeconomic part of the economy. Well, decreased corporation tax, an individual firm will invest more money, that is improving the individual firm. Decreased corporation tax, an individual is more likely to go into business, so that is the micro part of that. You decrease the income tax, the worker is more likely to work harder because the rewards will be greater. So this is what supply side economics does. It creates the right environment for an economy to progress. And the reason really why it's such a powerful concept is it's all about making actually individuals and firms take charge of their own destiny. So it's a little bit of freedom in there as well. Okay, supply side economics, lesson 90. Thank you.